We are here to win championships. If you don't want to win championships, go to Indiana.
The following is a presentation of Hobson Media. Woohoo!
All right, what's up? Not really an opening statement guy, but I will open with this statement. I'm fired up to be here.
This is Church Pew Sports, where we connect sports to life and faith.
Could you repeat that first part?
Take a knee.
Absolutely glorious.
Lend an ear.
I believe it's going to be for the best.
Then get ready to laugh, listen, and learn.
How about you announce that you're getting better?
No matter your team, your favorite sport.
Bowling. Bowling's insane. Bowling is crazy time.
We cover it all here on Church Pew Sports.
And we want to pump you up.
Gentlemen, start your engines, brothers.
Yeah, get those engines started and welcome into another edition of Church Pew Sports, where we connect sports to life and faith. We're so glad to have you with us. We are recording on the evening of August 17th. It is 10:03 Eastern Time, and we are set to have some fun because we are on the cusp of the return, the glorious return of football. Pastor Paul Miller, are you ready for some football?
I am, Bill. I told you guys before we went live that Fox Sports was replaying their favorite college football games from last year, and I was watching the Ohio State-Michigan game and seeing all the chippiness and getting all cranked up. So I'm actually pretty excited.
You know, that game probably has some negative connotations for those of us who root for the Wolverines because, A, the outcome wasn't very favorable for the good guys, and B, it was one of the more unusual coaching chapters in the history of our favorite school, which makes it even better that our special guest with us this evening is the official legal counsel of Church Pew Sports. And for those of you who have always wondered, hey, what does the face look like behind the voice of Randy Gilmer? Make sure you go to the Church Pew Sports YouTube channel because this podcast is being live streamed there, but it's also going to be stored there. So you can see him for yourself. And you may, I don't know, you may want to just cover the right side of your screen after you get there. That's up to you. That's a personal choice. Randy, how are you?
I'm good. Unfortunately, not only do I not have the voice for radio tonight, it shows that I don't have the face for it either on podcasts. So, it is what it is. But doing great. How you guys doing? Good to be here.
How did you take to Paul opening up our off-air conversation with mention of last year's big game?
They won. They didn't win a national championship. It was one out of five. So, and they won when we apparently didn't have a coach and we didn't have a quarterback coach. And, well, we had a coach, but he apparently was not.
Other things on his mind.
Not fully focused.
Not fully focused in his coaching roles.
Yeah, but now, Randy, we have to talk just for a moment, and we'll get into our primary topic about football and the headlines. But since we're on this subject, we have to talk for just a quick moment because as we sit here in mid-August, I'm already dreading what could happen in late November because this year the Buckeyes aren't going to have that troublesome senior night in the way to prepare for Michigan. They're getting that out of the way somewhere in, I think, this month. I think they might even do it just after a practice sometime. So does that add to your angst when it comes to the matchup?
Well, I am slightly concerned because now that anxiety and built up, pressure associated with announcing all those seniors and, heaven forbid the fact that I'm sure the people who have wanted to live, breathe, and go to Ohio State their whole life won't be upset at all that they're no longer having their senior identity associated with that game, which is, I'm sure, something that they all look forward to. And now they're like, oh, wait, what? Nothing? Oh, okay.
I don't know. I think there was an insult in there somewhere, but I'm not really sure. I couldn't follow it. I'm just glad that they moved their senior night off the last game of the season because now if they have to protect their logo at midfield after the game, Ohio State will be able to be single-minded because that is the most important thing. Do not let anybody deface your logo. In fact, I'm going to go back and watch the end of the game from last year after we're done recording because I want to see how it's done.
Lots of logo protection talk coming up in the season ahead. And at the same time, as we talk about football tonight, for the most part, we also have a number of other headlines to dive into. I want to start with one that has nothing to do with football. I got to get you guys to comment about this, whether it's ingenious, just a high level of trolling, completely unnecessary, or maybe just downright funny because of the trap that it sort of puts an entire league in. And I'm referring to Enes Kanter's declaration that he is going to become a part of the WNBA. This gentleman who's, I think, 6'10 or 6'11 is kind of feeling as if he might be ready to compete. Here's his thoughts on it, why he did this, and then we'll talk more about it.
I'm in my couch, obviously watching the WNBA because I love the game. And I was watching the post-game interviews, and one of the players came out and literally said, I welcome trans athletes in my team any day and every day. And she even said, there's no problem me going against a trans athlete. So I was like, that gave me an idea. I was like, if they don't have any problem with it, why not just go out there and take my shot and try to play basketball in WNBA? I mean, seems like the league itself and plus the players have no problem with it. The WNBA itself, players, and especially the coaches are the one that been advocating trans people playing in women's sports. So I'm not sure why am I getting all this backlash. They are the one encouraged me to do this.
Paul?
Bill, we had talked a couple weeks ago about how we need to start off every episode of this podcast with a non-sports question of the week. Is that what this is?
It sure is.
Is
it definitely is.
Okay, because the WNBA ratings are up and the league is getting all this attention for all the wrong reasons. For all the reasons that have nothing to do with the actual sport. So I really don't, there's this part of me that's like, Enes Kanter, hey man, you're getting another 15 minutes of fame that maybe you didn't earn in your own basketball career. So more power to you, whatever. I'm just anxious to see what actually comes with this. I think I would bet money that he doesn't ever actually play in a WNBA game, but it's definitely entertaining. I'll give him that for sure. Him and Royce White, right? The other guy, there's two of them.
Well, and in the kind of the lead up to that comment, because prior to that interview, he had already made public his intentions. Then the league had some emergency meetings to try to figure out what to do. So the commissioner and some of the owners and who knows who else got together. And after a several-hour meeting, they emerged to announce that they don't know what they're going to do. And they did not bring to the table a definition of a female. So, Randy, I mean, you've got two hats on. You've got sports hat on. You've got legal hat on. What? So is this just a genius trolling move by Kanter, or is it something completely frivolous? Or is it both?
Randy went down.
I lost you there for a second. I think I'm back.
we can't see you anymore.
I can see you guys now.
Is there any clips in Vegas? You've gone completely dark on us. You know what that means?
I think we're back.
Go ahead. I can't see you, but we can hear you, but we can't see you. I don't know what you're doing.
Okay, I can see you guys, and I hear you, but you sound like Alvin Chipmunks, but I'll assume that it's sounding okay. With regard to this issue, it is obviously a very interesting legal issue to see what they end up doing just from afar on this issue. It's, really, really interesting in the world of trans rights and also women's sports and Title IX. And it'll be a very interesting thing to see where they come down on this issue. From a legal perspective, it'll be very, very interesting.
So what's your prediction?
From a sports perspective, it'll be very, very interesting with what already appears as if the fact that the league doesn't necessarily embrace Caitlin Clark and and all of the publicity that she's given the league. So it'll definitely be interesting to see what would happen with regard to this issue, even before any decisions are made.
So, Randy, we got to ask, as our official legal counsel of Church Pew Sports, if you were on the board of directors for the WNBA and this issue was percolating, how would you advise the league to move forward? What would you advise that they do?
I have not looked at, I am going to punt on that one because I have not looked at all of the legal issues on that piece. And I would also feel as if my legal advice to that should go to them, and I should not even try to pretend that I know what the answer would be at this point in time without looking at the issue. Not to mention the fact that we just say in jest that I am legal counsel.
By the way, we have Scott Tinman in the live chat. He says, what's done in Vegas can't be recorded, apparently. No video evidence. Randy,
that's right.
Get your tech support team in there so we can see your smiling face again while Paul and I talk for a moment. And Paul, when I see this story, and I have to keep in mind, Randy actually is an attorney, so I probably should be careful about trying to get him on the record for things like this, because it most likely could only lead to difficulty and to trouble. But from a letter of the description and the bylaws of that league, there really isn't a case to be made against him playing. I understand. I agree with you. Never going to happen. But to press the issue is a fascinating sociological conversation piece, to say the very least, because at least at some level, it may not, but it should force the leadership of this league to confront their own hypocrisy and at least come out with clear-cut standards and definitions, which they really haven't done. And so as he sits there and he says, well, they said that we're all welcome, so here I am. And I guess he's trying to force their hands to say, hey, you're just faking it. And I can't even imagine the mushroom cloud that would erupt if that's what the league's response was. Clearly, you're not sincere, because now it gets into an entirely new level.
Yeah, then they would be setting themselves up for trying to judge the motives of anyone who identified as trans for the sake of being able to play in a woman's sport. It's nuts. The whole thing's crazy. I don't know how they get out of this one, short of doing everything they can to try and get him to just back off. But it's just kind of bringing the absurdity of the whole conversation on so many different levels to the forefront in a way that's I don't know if I want to say it's disrespectful or demeaning to a segment of our population who probably don't really think it's that funny, actually, to be honest.
Yeah, right.
But I don't know. I mean, it's definitely one. I never thought I would use this sentence. It's a reason for me to keep an eye on what's going on in the WNBA.
Well, it's not a competitive reason, but it's certainly a cultural reason to see how they deal with this. And in many ways, they've kind of worked themselves into this corner. So let's see how you get out of it. All right, other headlines from the week. We've got an interesting case going on with a football player.
Jaden Daniels sends a cease and desist letter to LSU because he thought they were going to not ever reissue his number 5 jersey to any other players, that they would do for him what they did for Joe Burrow. The difference between him and Joe Burrow is one of the two of them won a natty, and it wasn't Jaden Daniels. But they both won the Heisman, right? So there's a conversation to be had there. And since LSU had if I'm getting this right, a recruit that Brian Kelly, I think, had promised the number 5 to, like a stud player, and they want to follow through on that promise, they're kind of in this rock and hard place. So Jaden Daniels is like, great, you can't use my name, image, and likeness anymore. So now it's like, well, what do we do with all those jerseys that the jerseys can have the number 5 on there, but they can't have the word Daniels on there and all the things, right? And then you see all the all the memes showing up on Twitter, making fun of all the ways that the number 5 shows up in society, and like the Mets saying they stopped at 4-0 in their game the other night out of respect for Jaden Daniels. They didn't want to run the score up to 5 and all the things
everywhere.
It's actually another kind of absurd, crazy, fun headline that somehow we need to try and blame on Lane Kiffin. That's the only thing that I can think to make sense of the whole thing.
Well, a couple of my favorite memes from the week were, well, one wasn't really a meme. It was literally a photo, because at LSU's football practice, they ran every player out there in a number 5 jersey, which I just thought was fantastic. And that's the kind of response that you would expect. I know that the fast food chain Five Guys revised its name to Four Guys, at least for the last week. And the store that's called Five Below on their social media accounts became $4.99 and below. And all of it, of course, out of deference to Jaden. Do you think Jaden would take it all back if he could? Or do you think any attention like this is perfectly fine, good attention?
I think any headline is a good, what's the phrase? Any publicity is good publicity. So
yeah, I don't know. Does the WNBA think that too?
I don't know. He's still getting paid. His name's in the headlines. Yeah. He probably was bored, and I don't know. And at the end of the day, he's thinking a lot more of himself than he probably should be. And that might be a theme for this evening's episode that might show up in the 3-minute message. Just a little spoiler alert for you.
Meanwhile, if you want an example of the greatest technological struggles in history, whatever's happening in Randy Gilmer's world at this time needs to enter the chat, because we got a quick look at his steering wheel a second ago. Now he's gone again, so we don't know when to expect him back. Let's continue through the headlines.
It's a Vegas thing.
It is definitely a Vegas thing. The mob has come after Randy. In my world, the golf world, yesterday the world was set back on its proper axis as Scottie Scheffler dominated the field in the first of the FedEx Cup playoff tournaments, winning by 1,000,000 shots, making everything he looked at. And it was very cool, because it was kind of a throwback to what last year and the year before that were like. This year, Scottie has been totally dominant, but not winning. He has 10 top 4 finishes this year, and until yesterday, he only had 1 win. Now he has 2. And when Mr. Scheffler gets it going, my friends, it's his competition to win or lose, and it's pretty fun to watch. It was kind of cool. Plus, he's one of my favorite athletes, so it was really fun to see him kind of get back in the winner's circle.
So here's my question for you, Bill. They were talking about it on ESPN, and they're like, he ended the drought after 7 months of not winning.
Yeah.
So I guess is 7 months of not winning a major event like that in the world of professional golf, is that a drought? Or what is that?
Well,
doesn't seem like that long of a time.
It's a drought for a guy who was winning every other tournament that he was playing in. You give most any other player on tour the chance to win twice in a year and then finish top 4 10 other times, and they will sign up for that yesterday. You take even a very well-known player like Jordan Spieth, who shot a bazillion and missed advancing to next week, so he didn't make the top 50, which is the cutoff for the next playoff round, as the fields shrink each week. And Jordan had a good year, but he couldn't get anything done. And he's a great player. He's got multiple majors. So yeah, for Scottie, it would be considered a drought, and really largely, if he had putted during the season, even at a middle of the league pace, he would have won like 7 times. But he was putting like me. And that didn't get it done. So yesterday he was back, and his caddy, Ted Scott, who I'm continually trying to get on this program, has now made more this season than like 10 other golfers you've all heard of. And that means it's on his 10% of wins and 5% of top 5s. Teddy's having a good year, and partially because the boss has been so consistently good, just outside the winner's circle. So it's pretty powerful stuff, and I'm glad to see Scottie win again. And his little boy runs out there, and he's all very cute. And I think my favorite thing when Scottie taps in to win a tournament like he did it would have been understandable had he exploded in emotion and said, I'm back, or let's go, or whatever. He just dropped the putter and gave his caddy a hug and went over to find his wife and his kids. It's one of those guys you can root for.
That's cool. He acted like he had been there before, to quote Walter Payton.
Yeah, it's been a while, but he certainly has.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's good stuff.
Yeah.
What else you got in the headlines before we dive into football?
Okay, so I saw the headline that any given Saturday was the Netflix special.
We can hear Randy now.
We got you, Randy. Can you hear us?
I feel like this is like the moon landing. I mean, I don't know how we could possibly hear him so well, but he cannot hear us. And by the way, if you're all wondering if we're going to submit this episode for the Podcast of the Year Awards, probably going to hold off on that for a while, but it's fun for us at least. So
we're having fun. Okay, so Any Given Saturday was a show that Netflix put out a year ago where they just traced all the big storylines happening in all the SEC schools. And so I think we have a trailer or something from last season.
Teachers would ask, what do you want to be when you grow up? I'd say college football player.
The SEC is the greatest place in the world to play college football.
It's the SEC teams who are winning the national championship.
There's such small towns, maybe there's 30,000. But then you pull up to the stadium and there's 90,000 people.
If you play in this league, you will walk into the fire.
Every kid in this.
So you get the idea. It's just a wild time. It's crazy. And the SEC is the greatest conference in the history of mankind.
And I'm just struck by the fact that the headlines now are that Netflix has chosen to not re-up for another season of Any Given Saturday. So Joel Klatt and Colin Cowherd and some of the other guys who aren't SEC slappies were talking about maybe Netflix made that decision because they are no longer the best conference in college football. And I was just wondering, Bill or Randy, if you can hear me, I was wondering, do you care? Did you even know what Any Given Saturday was before I brought this up? And do you care that we won't get to enjoy it again this year?
Paul, until you put this soundbite in our planner, I had never heard of Any Given Saturday. And I can only imagine how much Netflix must have paid the SEC for this all access behind the scenes, hard knocks kind of a thing. And there's no chance the return matched, it came even close to matching whatever it is they spent, because if it did, they would have re-upped for it. So yeah, it serves the SEC well to kind of falsely believe that they were going to dominate the eyeballs of fans beyond the conference. And in reality, it doesn't even look like they captured the attention of fans in the conference. Because if just SEC fans had watched this, it would have been a huge success and would have been renewed. So there's nothing to it.
It's kind of like I had ESPN on this afternoon and they were reacting to the AP poll coming out, the first AP poll coming out. And they were talking about how it's such an accurate reflection of the college football landscape right now because the Big Ten had the top two ranked teams, Ohio State and Oregon. But the SEC had 9 teams ranked in the top 25 because they are the strongest, top to bottom. What they failed to mention is that Big Ten had 8 teams in the top 25. So congratulations to the SEC for sliding Missouri in at number 25 to prove that the middle of their conference is stronger than the middle of the Big Ten. I just think the bias in the media is almost laughable. And let's play the games. Let's get to the games so we can start to prove it.
In other collegiate football news, I have continued to appreciate Curt Cignetti. This guy's having fun, and he should. He's playing with house money. Just won the national championship, even though it's not talked about as much in this world of the SEC being the greatest conference in the history of mankind. And Cignetti is located, IU is located, as far as I know, in the state of Indiana, along with your Chicago Bears, and another university named Notre Dame. And so a question was put to Coach Cignetti about whether or not Indiana would like to play Notre Dame.
Yeah, I'd like to play Notre Dame. They ought to come to our place twice. We'll go up there once since they're not in the conference. I'd love to play them. It'd be a great in-state game, I guess there's a backstory to that. I don't quite know what it is. So, it is what it is. And Big Ten schedule's pretty darn tough, too.
Big Ten schedule's pretty darn tough, too. One of my favorite...
I'm starting to like that guy.
I am, too.
I'm starting to like that guy.
One of my favorite vibes of Cignetti is the quiet talking troll response. Yeah, I guess we play him. I mean, they have to come here twice. We go up there once since they're not in a conference. And just getting these little subtle, under the radar digs in it's just one of my favorite things. And we've got another Cignetti moment coming up a little bit later on the program during my That Guy. It's really one that's directed at him from another AD. We'll get to that here in a little bit. But we don't know if Randy is joining us or not. We're hoping he does. But meanwhile, let's plow forward and get into football, because that's kind of the primary topic of the program today. And as we talk football, we've got to answer the question about preseason. We already know that it's a ridiculous ripoff for fans to pay retail regular season ticket rates to watch preseason football in person. Most of the teams require the purchase of the preseason games if you're a season ticket holder. And you're paying the full fare for the 2 home games that you get during preseason. And my goodness, I mean, you talk about a greed. You watch the starters for maybe a series, and that's, I mean, not in week 1 for sure. And then, then you're kind of just hoping you get to see somebody that eventually is going to be a difference maker. But on TV, Paul, I will record preseason games. I'm not going to watch them live. Oh, goodness, no. But the Lions had a game last week, and I recorded it. And then later on, I was able to Zoom through it, but I watched every snap in this game. Maybe it's because I was just football starved and a little bit curious about the backups to Jared Goff and everybody else. I don't care about the results that much, but I make sure I watch at least my team's preseason games. Is that what you do?
Yeah. Well, if week 1 of the preseason is any indicator, I watched the Bears game. I had extra incentive to watch them because they were playing Cleveland, and one of my good friends and colleagues here at the EFCA is a diehard Cleveland Browns fan. So I broke one of my longstanding rules, and I texted with him during the game because it was a preseason game that didn't matter. But I watched the whole game. But here's the thing, Bill. If you have YouTube TV, you can record the games and then go back after the game is over and just watch the key plays, right?
Right.
So you can just, it's like your own custom highlight package, and you can see all that you want to see about all the other teams. And so that's what I tended to do for the other teams that I was curious about, like my son and daughter-in-law are big Buffalo Bills fans, so I did that for their game. And I wanted to see the NFC North teams, especially when I saw that the Packers kind of got boat raced a little bit by Pittsburgh. So, but then the other thing that I noticed that I did this weekend is I left the games on as I was reading and doing other things, doing my laundry, because it was just the noise in the background was encouraging to me. Like after a full off season, I was like, oh, it's just good to have football on in the background, even if it's not the regular season, and even if it's games that I don't have any interest in watching, just having the noise on was good for me.
Does this beginning of preseason mean that you're officially done with baseball, or do you still have a little bit of interest in what happens in baseball?
No, I'm still intrigued by some of the, now what I find myself doing is just looking for the headlines. Like Kyle Schwarber hits 2 home runs into the cornfield in Iowa last week, and some dude had a 3 home run debut for his season, and the Tigers are in playoff position, and the Dodgers and other teams are banning scooters, and there's all these interesting things that are going on that's making baseball interesting to me. So I'm definitely up still from where I normally am as far as following baseball goes, and I'm actually going to watch the playoffs this year, not just the World Series.
Well, since the last time we recorded, of course, my Tigers have sent away Tarek Skubal and Casey Mize, and Skubal, of course, goes to the Dodgers and is not off to a fantastic start with them. Meanwhile, the Tigers are scrapping and scraping, and until they got swept over the weekend by the White Sox, they were in a playoff spot. Now they've got to kind of climb back into it, but they're still interest in all of that, but I don't think there's any debate whatsoever that football is king. And in fact, and Paul, this won't matter to anybody out there except for me, but here in Midland is an LPGA event every year. It's called the Dow Championship, and it's every June. And they just announced that their dates for 2027 have been shifted by the LPGA to September 28th through October 2nd. And there, of course, the marketing folks have to put their best foot forward and say how excited they are to introduce fall golf to so many. You must be kidding me. You're now going up against high school football, college football on every level, and like week 3 or 4 of the NFL, and you think you're going to draw fans? Oh, so yeah, football is king.
Football's king.
By far. So
for sure it is.
When we break all that down, when we get into football, you and I are fans of the NFC North, and there's a team called the Minnesota Vikings that is in just a fantastically hilarious quarterback pickle. And there's a team over at the Mistake by the Lake known as Cleveland that's in the same kind of a boat where if they had to start the regular season today, I don't really know if they're all very confident in their signal caller. So who do you think has it worse or more challenging, the Vikings or the Browns?
Yeah, I posed this question to my buddy David and Dan, my 2 friends who are diehard Cleveland fans. And they were like, why are you even asking this question, right? It was obvious to them, especially after watching the preseason game where Deshaun Watson was, nah. And then Shedeur and Dylan Gabriel were less than Deshaun Watson. But then I sent a text to my friend Alex Rauch, who I think is probably going to be listening to this podcast. So he's a diehard Minnesota fan. And I thought he would just get mad at me when I asked him the question, but I said, who's got the worst QB situation, Minnesota or Cleveland? And he said, definitely Minnesota without a doubt. And I was like, how do you justify that? They have Kyler Murray, they have JJ, whose jury's still out on what JJ is going to be or not be. And they have Carson Wentz versus Deshaun Watson and Shedeur and Dylan Gabriel. And his answer was, the Vikings quarterbacks are just good enough to prevent them from getting a high draft pick. That's worse. And I thought to myself, I actually can't argue against what he's saying right there. Like none of the quarterbacks in Minnesota are going to lead them most likely to any kind of playoff success. They'll probably hover around whether or not they're going to make a wild card if Kyler pans out or whatever, that kind of thing. But in Cleveland, success is measured by, or those of us who look fondly at Cleveland and say, thank you, Lord, that that's not my team.
Right.
Their success is measured by where they land in the draft order. So I guess I would probably say Minnesota's quarterback situation is worse because it's just good enough to not be terrible. That's probably how I would answer it.
I cannot figure out what to expect from JJ. Obviously, I'm a fan of him because of his Wolverine heritage in the national championship and thought he was going to do quite well in the NFL, but he's been injured. He's never really been at full strength, but he's been at full strength in training camp. And apparently wasn't enough to impress the coaches that he should be the starter. And it's one of the things that makes me chuckle about the overabundance of sports talk radio or podcast opinions where especially people who are fans of a particular team are sure that there's like a bias against their guy, whoever their guy is. They're sure of it. Yeah. It's kind of like the person in the congregation who is certain the pastor was preaching right at him, because they view everything through that lens of it's got to be against me. I'm here to tell you that Kevin O'Connell, who is a really good coach of quarterbacks, is not going to name a starter in training camp unless the competition has clearly been decided. And he's also not going to do something that would be in the worst interest of his team just to, prove a point or act out
to
on
motivate JJ or whatever.
To light a fire under the. It's not how it works. So you can rest assured that for every team in the National Football League, whoever is lined up under center to start the season, I mean, unless there's been an injury to the clear-cut starter, that person is the one who won the job. It's not because, he brown-nosed the coach or he bought the most Girl Scout cookies and won a lottery. It's because this is the best player, because there are 54 people on the roster who have livelihoods that depend on that decision, along with the whole coaching staff. So I don't know who has the worst situation, but I'm going to stick with probably whenever somebody asks me a worst question for the NFL, I just default to Cleveland and I'll just let it stay there.
That's probably a good strategy. It's been interesting being here in Minnesota, right? It's actually pretty fascinating the way they cover their hometown team.
Yeah.
The conversation that's been going on up here is they've been comparing JJ's stats to start his career to a number of other NFL quarterbacks that he could become. And so the whole thing has been, is he Zach Wilson or Trey Lance? Or is he Sam Darnold or like Baker Mayfield? And so the sportscasters up here are comparing stats and trying to do a deep dive to prognosticate. And so far they're saying he's probably Zach Wilson, which I don't think is a good prognostication for him. But who knows? It's way too early to tell. It's just way too early to tell. But speaking of Kyler to Minnesota, right? Kyler Murray coming to Minnesota. I was thinking about what are the other big moves that I'm wanting to keep my eye on and see what happens. I had Jamal Adams on this list, and then he's done for the year now, thanks to Minnesota's first preseason game. The three that I came up with, Bill, were DJ Moore going to Buffalo, Myles Garrett going to the Rams, and Von Miller going to the Cowboys, which just happened. Which one of those is like the biggest, oh, wow, for you? Or are there others that would make your list?
Well, I think the biggest one that I'm interested to know how far it goes is the unretirement of a terrorizing defensive tackle in Los Angeles. I mean, if Aaron Donald truly does return to form, goodness, are they stacked on defense? Von Miller to Dallas, it's okay, but Vaughn is more of a name right now. He's not a full tank guy anymore. He's several years into his career, so that's probably not going to be as big of a factor unless he's going to play in short spurts on passing downs, because he can still get to the quarterback, but it's going to be very limited. I mean, if he plays 15 snaps a game, that would be pretty impressive. Myles Garrett to the Rams is such a gigantic problem. Yeah. Especially if he's bookended by Aaron Donald. I mean, there was no free agent that I was hoping more hopeful for coming to Detroit in the offseason than Myles Garrett, because we wanted him to bookend with Aiden Hutchinson. And so that to me is probably the one to keep the biggest eye on. And along with the development of some rookie quarterbacks, like I can't wait to see what Mendoza has. I don't know if he's for real. Yep. I don't know what he brings. I don't know how many reps he's going to get. If he's going to be on the field early, not usually a very smooth pathway for a rookie quarterback. Is he different? I don't know, because so much rides on the protection that he has in front of him. But I can't wait to see if he's the real deal or not. So that's one that I would also keep an eye on.
Yeah, I was watching some NFL show. I've been watching a lot of preseason prediction shows and stuff like that. And they were talking about how the Raiders' schedule is front loaded. Like the first 8 games are all their tough games this year. So they're like, this is perfect because Cousins can start the season. And right around game 7 or game 8, they can decide that Fernando's ready to take over the reins right when they get into the cream puff part of their schedule, and off he can go. So that'll be interesting to watch. But yeah, I'm so excited for football. I'm still trying to figure out what I think of the Bears. Certainly seeming like they're calling their bluffs on going to Indiana or whatever. But
yeah, we got to talk about this for a minute, because your favorite team president and former Big Ten commissioner Kevin Warren stepped to the podium this week to try and lend a voice of clarity to what's happening, because it does appear that all of the momentum is moving towards Hammond, Indiana, And at the same time, there were reports that Goodell was meeting with Illinois legislators kind of away from the team and maybe on his own. And I don't know I have no idea what any of that means, but just a little bit of Kevin Warren to make sure Paul's blood pressure is as high as it can possibly be.
We will make sure that we take our time to get this right, because not only are we building a world-class stadium, but we're building a world-class mixed-use development, and we want to make sure that we get this right. We have had occasional meetings with the state of Illinois, and also we're just grateful that the NFL has been very helpful to us, especially Commissioner Goodell. But even though we've had occasional meetings with the state of Illinois, our sole focus at this point in time is working on a world-class stadium and mixed-use development in Hammond, Indiana.
Hammond, Indiana.
I mean, okay.
It's becoming less and less. It's sounding less and less like a bargaining ploy and more like a viable option. Here's where I've landed on it as a lifelong Bears fan.
Yeah.
If they keep the name Chicago Bears, and if wherever they end up is a place where you can see the Chicago skyline in the distance or on the horizon, then I'm good. I don't care. And both of those things are true of Hammond, Indiana.
Oh, they are. I was just going to ask you, because it's kind of if I remember right, it's kind of a toxic landfill dump property that they were looking at and kind of reclaiming it and obviously cleaning it up and all that. Don't drink the water. But does it also have line of sight back to Chicago?
It does. And now there's a second site that has emerged in Hammond, which is a couple of nice golf courses that they're talking about turning into. So now there's two different locations in Hammond that they are considering, both of which you can see the Chicago skyline. So I'm like, okay, if they go out to Arlington Heights, you can see the Chicago. That's all I want. Can it be in the shadow of the city? And will you still be called the Chicago Bears? Then I don't care.
Well, the Detroit Lions played at the Pontiac Silverdome forever. It was still considered Metro Detroit, but you could not see Detroit from Pontiac. That's for sure. It's not, the New York Giants and the New York Jets play in New Jersey. So it's not unheard of. But in this case, it just seems to be, it's just wrong. It's like putting ketchup on your pizza. It just doesn't work. It just doesn't fit that way. And I would have to think that Pritzker, the governor of Illinois, will somehow pay a political price from angry Bears fans if there's ever an opposing candidate who just is smart enough to run on, he lost the Bears. That's kind of your only campaign platform.
And you know what? Now that you say that, if I still lived in the Chicagoland area, I might have a different opinion, right? But now it doesn't, if I'm going to see a Bears game, I don't know, on Christmas Day or something like that, I'm flying into O'Hare regardless, right?
Yeah.
And where we drive to doesn't really matter. But I know that I'm in the minority as I talk to my buddies who are Bears fans who still live in Chicagoland. And so it's just going to be fascinating. It's definitely one to keep an eye on.
That reminds me, on our last episode, we as a group went to bat for Paul for his Christmas Day Packers-Bears opportunity with his son, and we put forth personal appeals to his lovely wife, Bobby. And if you didn't listen to that episode, please go back and listen. It's right at the very end, I think, or in the middle. Could be at the beginning. Just check out the whole thing. How do we do? What's the progress report?
You endeared yourselves to a whole bunch of guys who listened to this podcast who texted me to say how awesome that segment was. And it didn't move the needle at all with my wife.
Right, well, that's pretty much in keeping with what I expected from my motivational and persuasive skills. So it wasn't for lack of effort or sincere desire, but sometimes it's just talent. The talent's just not in the room. And but we did give it the old college try. And the last question before we go into our holy discontent, if you're looking at the NFC North, which is our conference, are you just putting your Bears as the clear-cut favorite in that division?
I think it's the Bears and the Lions.
Yeah.
and I don't know if it's like this or like this. I think they're going to come down to the end of the season. And then I can tell you what I hope happens. I hope the Vikings finish third and the Packers are in the cellar, but I think the Packers probably finish third, and I think one wild card comes out of the NFC North. That's my prediction. So I think the Bears and the Lions are in either way. It's just who's going to win the division and who's going to get a wild card spot.
There are a number of factors that intrigue me about my Lions, and one of which is they have absolutely no secondary. Everybody's hurt. There's nobody out there. We're joking in text chains with like, "Did you still have your cleats from high school?" And guys are like, "I guess I go out and give it a try." But they do have what is officially ranked as the easiest schedule in the league. Now, that can change. If a team that's not supposed to be good is good, then all that changes. But as you look at the statistical probabilities, they, for whatever reason, they have the easiest schedule in the league. I'd like to think that that somehow works in their favor so that, like you said, it comes down to the end of the season and there's at least a little drama between, you know, the Lions and the Bears, and that the Packers are nowhere near any of it. That's the best case scenario.
Yeah.
All right, time for Holy Discontent.
It's time to blow off some steam. Get it off your chest. Rant about what's most bothering you.
I got a lot of problems with you people. Now you're going to hear about it.
It's time for Holy Discontent.
Lead us off, Mr. Miller.
Yeah, so my holy discontent this week, continuing with the theme of guys who think very highly of themselves. I'm calling out Tyrese Halliburton. You may remember the last time you saw him play was 17 months ago or whatever, and he tore his Achilles for the Pacers. And he's ready to come back. And he was getting interviewed about how he feels about the fact that his first game back is not only not a home game, but it's not on national television. And here's what he had to say about it.
Yeah, I'd like to name any other person that you compare to my level of a basketball player, wherever you have me ranked. If they tore their Achilles and missed 16 months, do you think that game would be on national television? Yeah, you probably think so? Sure. Yeah. Do you think that game would be at home if not on national television?
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. Okay. Do you think that game would be at New Orleans?
Wait, what?
Oh, your first game? Oh, that's crazy.
Oh, that's crazy.
That's crazy.
When I saw schedule, I was like, oh, wow. Not shout Trey Murphy, love my boy Trey. Love New Orleans, but I was shocked to see that. But we moved.
Poor guy.
Oh, Tyrese, man.
Poor guy.
I appreciate the fact that you can surround yourself with whoever those other voices were in that soundbite.
Former players, yes.
Who all are just going to tell you that you're the best thing ever. But I got to tell you, man, you tore your Achilles. I haven't thought about you for 2 seconds since that happened, brother. I'm glad you're coming back. I don't give a rip that your first game back is in New Orleans against the Pelicans and it won't be on national television, so I can't watch it. And I think that most fans are probably in the exact same place that I am with that one.
He also needs to remember that both the 76ers and the Lakers now have 35 nationally televised games this season because the league is just a 2-team league. So sorry, Tyrese, but let's just look at overall jersey sales. I'm going to guess the Halliburton jersey sales are fairly far down in the overall rankings of fandom. So yeah, sorry, man. And by the way, New Orleans, really good music. So go and enjoy it. My holy discontent is on behalf of the Bills Mafia. I've never been to a game in Buffalo. I probably won't ever go to a game in Buffalo, but they have a brand new stadium. And all of the buzz about this brand new stadium is really twofold. Number one, the Jumbotrons are not jumbo. They are very small scoreboard video screens by not just by today's standards, but really by the standards of 15 years ago. So that's kind of unusual. And then I think the biggest headline is the number of obstructed view seats. Now I'm going to play for you just a short soundbite, but I want you to know that the clip that I pulled this from is 4 minutes solid of one fan after another in their seats for a preseason game. This was on video, this clip was, showing their view in a brand new stadium. And their views, especially those in the first rows of sections, are absolutely horrendous.
It was
oh, no, like that, how could that possibly be something that would be in our face during the game? And now here we are, and I'm watching through the glass like I'm at the neighbor's house. It's very weird. And then, as my father said, there's people constantly walking in front of us. It's just horribly designed. It's extremely annoying.
Horribly designed, extremely annoying. And by the way, for that particular fan, I would have a question. What are you doing looking through your neighbor's windows? But I digress. It just seems like the architects maybe missed one there for the Buffalo fans. So, yeah, I can't. And they had to pay for personal seat licenses. They, of course, paid a premium because their team's pretty good and their stadium's new. So I could see why if you sat down in your seats for your first ever preseason game and you looked up at just like railings and thick glass in front of you, it would be a little bit annoying. I think they're letting everybody hear about it, to say the least. Okay, let's move into our That Guy segment.
Right now, this minute, today, this week, I am the man!
All right, Paul, take it away.
Okay, my That Guy this week is LeBron James.
So terrible.
And the reason that LeBron is my That Guy and why he's getting the shout out is because he has decided to launch a YouTube channel dedicated to his adventures in the world of golf. And the first episode, I think we have a clip from it, is like him doing a little Cavs reunion thing. So let's just listen to that for a second.
What's up, y'all? Welcome to the channel. Yo, today's gonna be a very special one. Today we are Stewart Castle Country Club here in Scotland. We're here with some of my ride or die brothers from 2016 NBA champion Cleveland Cavaliers. You can turn the camera around and pan. We got J.R. Smith there. Oh, the big dog Channing there. Richard Jefferson there. Tristan Thompson. And Kevin Love as well.
The big dog is there. And thanks for telling him to turn the camera around, LeBron. Here's why this is my That Guy. Because there's no possible reason, even though there's no possible reason for me to be excited about a new golf channel on YouTube, especially one chronicling the adventures of LeBron James playing golf. This is going to be a never-ending source of pleasure and joy and fun for me because I'm going to incessantly bring it up on this podcast just so you have to react to it, though. So thank you, LeBron, for being just a walking soundbite and a source of never-ending content for Church Pew Sports.
LeBron, as soon as he flips the switch for this channel, we'll automatically have, a couple million subscribers. Meanwhile, I've been beating my head up against the YouTube brick wall for 20 plus years, and we're like at 6,000 subscribers. And this guy, he didn't bring any of his new Sixers teammates with him. He didn't bring any of his former Lakers teammates with him. So maybe this was shot before he knew he was going to Philly, but he didn't bring anybody from LA with him. He went back to Cleveland to bring some guys with him to play golf. And
his ride or dies. His ride or dies.
Ride or dies. Unbelievable. I got to take a second to recalibrate.
Thank you, LeBron. It's just going to be a never-ending source of fun for me. So.
I'm anticipating you putting a new segment together in the show that is, let's compare YouTube channel sizes, and you'll put Michigan Golf Live on this side, and you put Bron on the other side, and I'm
just going to do a little mashup of like comments from your show, comments from LeBron's show, and we'll just put them next to each other and kind of. Well, here's what we'll do: we'll create a little segment where I'll just read a quote, and people will have to guess. Is that from LeBron's show?
There you go.
From Bill's.
There you go. When I say I'm here with my ride or die guys and it's J.R. Smith, that'll be a tough one for everybody to figure out, but we can certainly give them the challenge. My That Guy is Tommy McClellan, the new athletic director at Purdue. His opening press conference, he was trying so hard. He wanted to come out and be the statement maker and the one that would throw down the gauntlet and declarative, and we're a championship mindset. And I played his soundbite at the very beginning of this program. I'm going to play it again for you now. Realizing, of course, that Purdue is in West Lafayette, Indiana, and that Indiana University is in Bloomington, that Purdue hasn't come within a billion miles of sniffing success in football for a fair amount of years, and that Indiana just won the Natty, this has to go down as the comment of the year.
Every recruit, every current student athlete will hear this message repeatedly.
Yes, they will.
We are here to win championships. If you don't want to win championships, go to Indiana.
That's where you want to go.
Except for last year.
That's absolutely incredible. And he has set up his student athletes for a level of beatdown when they play Indiana this year that I don't even know how to predict. But it's going to be disastrous, because if there's one thing that surly Curt Cignetti does well, it's retribution. It's payback. And I'm going to go on a record here, and I didn't look up the date that these two schools play. I'm just going to go on record here as predicting that whatever those who come up with point spreads predict, I'm going to go ahead and say double it, because that'll probably be the message that old Curt wants to send. And now I will say that in an interview a few days later, I think he was on with Dan Patrick, the AD McClellan said, "Yeah, man, did I botch that?" And I think his phrase was, "I hope we are as good at pursuing championships as I am bad at press conferences." I thought that was a good way to put it, because he was getting hammered from every corner of the planet, and rightfully so. So he's that guy. But his players, man, they better strap it up whenever they play Indiana.
Homer, I'd like you to remember Matthew 7:26. The foolish man who built his house on sand.
And you remember Matthew 21:17.
And he left them and went out of the city into Bethany, and he lodged there?
Yeah. Think about it.
Think about it. Okay, so I kind of teased this out in the beginning of our conversation. There's a theme, there's a through line for this entire episode, Bill, which is people who have an inflated view of themselves, right? We talked about Jaden Daniels. We talked about any SEC head coach and Paul Feinbaum. We talked about LeBron. We talked about Tyrese Halliburton. Every one of those guys in different ways, either just recently or repeatedly, have let us know what they think of themselves. And so to all those guys, I just want to read a verse from Romans 12. For by the grace, this is the Apostle Paul talking, and he says, "For by the grace given me, I say to every one of you," Jaden Daniels, LeBron, Tyrese, "do not think of yourself more highly than you ought to, but rather think of yourself with sober judgment in accordance with the faith God has distributed to each of you." So who's the one athlete that we highlighted in the conversation today who thinks of himself with sober judgment in accordance with the faith God has distributed to him? Scotty Scheffler. Yeah. Right? So let's take the world of sports and let it apply to our own lives, because I think left to our own devices, we will tend to drift away from sober judgment and away towards thinking more highly of ourselves than we ought to, right? So let's, before we make too much fun of these athletes, I'll read the verse again, and let's think about it in our own terms. Where in your life are you tempted to not follow the advice of the Apostle Paul? For by the grace given me, I say to every one of you, do not think of yourself more highly than you ought, but rather think of yourself with sober judgment in accordance with the faith God has distributed to you. Romans 12:3. That is a challenge that we can all take with us into our week. And when we bump into guys in the world of sports or Hollywood or all these public places where they kind of get paid to think highly of themselves, right? Let's just keep that in appropriate measures, especially as it applies to how we conduct ourselves in our own lives.
Yeah, well said. And a powerful verse for sure in Romans chapter 12. And that's one of the things we like to do on this program. We have fun talking about everything, but at the end, we do want to connect it all back to real life and to faith. And that passage that Paul just shared definitely helps to do that. By the way, a little update from out in Vegas. We have put out an all points bulletin trying to search for Randy Gilmer, the official legal counsel. I'm a little worried that the guys got to him and he's in somebody's trunk being hauled out into the desert. So we'll follow up on that for the next episode and appreciate him at least making the effort to join us. David Collins was going to join us tonight, and he's just sicker than a dog in his own words. So David, get better. And we'll look forward to connecting with all of you on the next episode of Church Pew Sports. It's almost football season. We've got lots more preview content coming your way here in just the next couple of weeks, and we'll get back onto a more regular schedule not too far down the road. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time on Church Pew Sports.